You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Tomo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book. I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain. Captain. Captain.
No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back. It's Tuesday, August 25th, the year of our Lord 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K. A mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that putrefying edifice. And at the end of the show, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, and palatial SHR Media studios, be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from downtown Sacramento. Be forewarned, I'm probably going to be coughing tonight because this is our 8th straight day of a pall of smoke over Sacramento. Also be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and no one else's. Also, because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon isn't open, but we're still serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense right out the back door. Gotta remind you of this, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. If our Constitution and Bill of Rights don't prevail on November 3rd, and we don't keep freedom in this nation, we're not going to find it anywhere else. Because once this nation goes down, the rest of the world follows suit. Now, I have to tell you that I promised KARI Baxter Donovan that I would have her back on the show. KARI, are you there? Well, I know she was, because it's going, KARI, are you there, madame? She went to the electric winkle chamber. She'll be right back after this. In any event, last week, an explanation is in order. Last week, I was not here. One of the primary reasons I was not here is because I had no air conditioning. Now, customarily, one likes to have air conditioning in the summertime, but this was an extremely unique set of circumstances wherein not only did I have air conditioning, but there were two other situations that were going on simultaneously. One was, well, it was only 111 to 114 degrees outside, and perhaps you might be saying to yourself at this point, nah, that can't be true. Yeah, it was. In Sacramento, it was 111, depending on which. Now, it was a minimum of 108 all last week. And then it went up and down a little bit between 108, 110, 111, and 114. At one point last week, it's all a dim blur to me. At one point in my car, I looked down at the temperature gauge, and it said 124 degrees. All right. We'll try this again. Now? There we go. Can you hear me now?
Oh, wait, it wasn't that from like 1982 or something? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, can you hear me now? And
I could hear you the whole time. I was interrupting you, and you weren't stopping. So
I know. The system is strange. BZ is strange. His relationship with technology is even stranger.
It's because kind of like the gremlin.
Yeah, right? I call myself the techno-Luddite. What I do discover, though, is if I have no luck on the first call, usually the second call works. But what I was doing... The second time is, in fact, the charm. What I was doing is explaining to everybody that the reason I wasn't here last week, Tuesday and Thursday night, is because, well, I had no air conditioning. And there were two additional factors that were unhappy. One of them was all last week. It was a minimum of 108 degrees, up to 111, up to 114 degrees in Sacramento. And
that's horrifying.
I was just saying to the folks that at one point I got in my car, drove around a little bit so that the temperature gauge would settle. And at one point, my vehicle, because it's got a little temperature gauge inside, said 124 degrees.
That's like Death Valley. What are you doing?
So you can understand my concern when I didn't have air conditioning. Well, I discovered the first day that we have all the parts and we'll be putting it in about 2 hours. And then they come back and say, well, we didn't have the parts. And we're going to have to get them. And we're going to rush these parts through committee in about 6 months.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's what it seemed as though they said to me. What they did say is sometime next week, we think we'll get the parts. We'll notify you when we have the parts. And then you'll have to call completely separately again to set up and schedule an installation of the parts. Well, 9 days later.
Oh, my gosh. No.
With no air conditioning.
Funny. That's terrible.
We spent 9 days in a motel. And it had one of those little air conditioners that doesn't fit in the window, but it fits below the window. And BZ made an astonishing discovery. If you set it, that sucker would go down to 65 degrees. So guess what the temperature was in BZ's room for 9 days?
65.
65 damn degrees. You could hang meat in there. And that's the way I like it. So...
I'm so glad that you didn't have to suffer through.
Jesus. Oh, that only cost me $1,200 for the motel, plus another $3,000 for the air conditioning. Because 2 days ago, they did install, and now that it's not 111 degrees, it's only about 95. I can set it down to about 68 degrees, and I'm going to have to settle for that. Although the prior iteration of the air conditioning would let you set it down on a hot day to about 65, which is, oh, yeah. BZ likes to hang meat in his house. Oh, boy. Baby. Because, I'm another guy. Guys, they kind of run hot.
Yeah.
If you want to run cool, you got to run on heavy fuel, just like Dire Straits says. And I run on heavy fuel, as everybody knows. My heavy fuel is Kettle One vodka, which is why I consort at the end of every day with my BZ's KC 135 Kettle One refueling team. And when people think that perhaps, oh, that's just something BZ says, bullshit. I want you to know.
Oh, what a tale this is.
That shit happens. Plus, Kari Baxter Donovan, it gets better. It gets better. We've had all these wildfires around here, and the wind has been blowing basically from west to east. And so we've had literally, and I put out on social media, a picture from the backyard of my wife's house where it was difficult to see a tree 500 feet away in my next-door neighbor's yard.
Wow. And
so we have been laboring under this pall of crap brought about by leftists and Democrats because our forests in California, by the feds as well, I'm not pointing a finger at the feds, but I am primarily pointing a finger at the California whatever used to pass for forest management. We have not had forest management for 40 to 50 years.
I think they have you. I think you are with New Mexico with like the owl, indigenous owl, is what they're trying to save there, isn't it?
There are all sorts of little bitty creatures and critters and whatnot that they say that we can't do anything with.
Right.
And so because of that lovely little gem,
I could go on about that all day long. What that's really all about?
OMG. Yeah, can we ever?
Right.
So in the way, here's a deal. This is a little factoid for you folks. And for those of you who don't have forests in your state for whatever reason, there are this is my source. This is the U.S. Forest Service Forest Inventory Analysis. There are, in the western United States, there are 6.3 billion standing dead trees in the western United States. Just in California alone, there are 13 million dead trees in the state of California. Always spell it with a K. You can't take them. You can't log them. They don't want you doing anything with that. Plus, I can take you to any number of locations in the forest around my cabin, because that's separate from my wife's house. I have a cabin at the 4,000-foot level in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and I can take you a short distance. Now, I get taxed extra money for this, I should have you know, by the state of California. Always spell it with a K. I can show you areas in the forest where the loam, which is all the deadfall, all the pine needles, all the brush, all the pine cones, is 2 to 3 feet thick. And people go, oh, boo-hoo, it's climate change. No, it's not. It's leftists who have not allowed controlled burns, who will not allow forest management, electrical companies, and again, see what I said about this being my opinion. This is my show. This is my opinion. In concert with what I consider and I call the murdering PG&E, in the year 2018 and 2019, killed 87 people because of lousy transmission lines and the inability that they haven't taken up their responsibility in removing trees from transmission lines. Senator Steve Daines had a quote that I like to remember, and he said this: The bottom line is either we manage the forests or the forests manage us. This year, last year, in California, the forests are managing us. And guess what? They're doing it all at fucking once. Okay, I'm getting off my pedestal now. KARI Baxter Donovan, I am so glad to see you here. But before we get into all the various topics that I have for you tonight, I do always want to do this before I forget.
The Bloviating Zeppelins, HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Hey, go to HeyJackass.com. Here are the stats for Tuesday. August to date, shot and killed in Chicago, 41. Shot and wounded, 344. Total shot, 385. Total homicides, August to date, 42. Week in progress, August 23rd to August 29th, shot and killed 1. You're going to have to do better than that, Chicago. Shot and wounded, 56. Total shot, 57. Total homicides, 1. Chicago, you're letting me down. However, this is where they shine year to date. Shot and killed, 450. Shot and wounded, 2,250. Total shot, 2,700. Total homicides, 491. Chicago and Mayor Lightfoot, you never fail to disappoint. And with that, we have KARI Baxter Donovan back in the house, as I said we would. And there was a ton of stuff that we didn't get to go over last time. One of the stories that I did go over is, let's see if I can find it. It was a story that you wrote, and it was about someone that had fired a weapon at one of the helicopters.
Yes.
From, I noticed that this was primarily uncovered by what I call the American media maggots, but someone had shot at one of the helicopters that flies the presidential unit. Now, Air Force One, the big 747, is called, literally, Air Force One. And when the president is in the helicopter and it flies with a retinue of other helicopters, it is called Marine One. So this was a unit where Marine One is kept. And I point out that A, it was an excellent story, and B, you covered something, KARI Baxter Donovan, that primarily very damn few people did, which is why I like having you on the show.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was a weird story, and I haven't been able to get an update. Isn't that weird?
No, I don't find that weird. I find it, I can understand that would be either the base trying to keep that under their hat as much as they possibly can. Before we go on, though, can you tell folks where you can be found on social media if they want to read any of your social media? And then, if you would please, follow it up with where you are currently writing articles, because it's about 3 places now, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So Twitter is at Sarosa, SAORSA 1776. That's on Twitter. And then Facebook is KARI Baxter Donovan. Thank you very much. And where most of my articles are going up is DJHJmedia.com. And then I'm at Unite America First, which is Will Johnson's site, and Ryan Fournier's site, which is RF Angle, and DavidHarrisJr.com. So 4 sites. And then I'm going to get added to a couple more. And so, yeah, I think I wrote 12 articles today.
Today?
Yeah. Today I did. I wrote about 12.
Holy moly. I've neglected chat, my mistake. Welcome to Mike in chat, Sergeant Booker in chat, and Kaiser in chat. Kaiser in chat said, yep, HMX-1 is Marine One Squadron. I was attached to it. Well, thank you. As folks know, Kaiser did some serious service in a couple of services in the military and has been everywhere and done most everything. So I appreciate
thank you for your service.
His service and sacrifice.
Yeah.
Having said that, and now do you post customarily, if you write an article, do you put them up on your blog? Or excuse me, not your blog, but you put them up on your Twitter site, your Twitter feed.
I usually do, except now I'm writing so much I can't even keep up with my own articles. So not all of them. I can't even keep up with them. Because I'll tell you what I'm really mostly interested in is, I've been following Marxism and communism, the Marxist communist socialist takeover of the United States. I've been following that for 20, I've been talking about that for 20 years. And I don't know if you've seen, but this has really been escalated lately. And so there's a lot to cover. And so I'm just trying to get as much as I can out there because I've been trying to educate people on this topic seriously for over 20 years. And since I was a communist organizer. And now I'm I got to make hay while the sun shines because everybody's talking about it now. Everyone, even people in the grocery store, little ladies in the grocery store talking about the communist takeover of America. So it's not funny, but I gotta keep writing, right? And so, yeah, I can't keep up with my own self sometimes.
You have written a whole bunch of articles, and I'm looking at your Twitter feed. One of them was this, and I'm looking. Maybe I should say this. I'm monitoring, and I don't know if you are. But I'm monitoring some information that Sackhead Sean brought to my attention where he said that apparently there are some people in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, Kenosha, folks, if you remember, is where the shooting occurred with the officers in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and there have been riots ever since. I think that was 3 days ago, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, something like this. Mm-hmm. Rioters lit 50 cars on fire at a dealership, causing $1.5 million in damage, went through Kenosha, lit up a church and cars in the church parking lot where the sign outside said, Black Lives Matter. This isn't about a man whose name no one remembers anymore. It's about leftist anarchy, socialism, which in my estimation always leads ultimately to communism or Marxism. I have my little red book by Marx and Engels. And folks,
and here's an interesting angle for you on the Wisconsin riots. Who is the lawyer now who's going to represent the family of the kid who was shot? But Crump, people need to pay attention to him because he is Al Sharpton Jr. And if you notice, wherever it is he ends up going, riots happen. And that's probably because he's a communist organizer. He is a, judicial activist. And he's in with Kamala Harris. I've written about their connections. Kamala Harris being a progressive. Progressives, what they want to bring about in America is communism. They're progressive communists. That's Kamala Harris. She is friends with Crump. Crump endorsed Kamala Harris. And what they want is bail reform, police reform, all of this reform. Basically, what I'm saying is they're criminals. And so if we don't have any criminal justice, they get to go do whatever they want to do, right? Including Crump, who is now the attorney who's representing the family of the kid who was shot. And so now you're going to see, like you said, it doesn't matter if there's a sign that says Black Lives Matter or not. If they can burn it down, they're going to burn it down. And that's what's going to happen over there in Wisconsin until they start to get serious and say, we have to start getting these Democrats out of office in this area. Anywhere you find Democrats are in office, especially if there's any progressive district attorneys, lawyers, okay, that's what they're going to do is they're going to find their little pockets where they can influence people. Watch how many times Crump comes up. And by the way, I've written numerous articles on this, and I'm talking to the guy who made Trayvon Martin movie, right? He says Crump is the one who started the whole thing, who put up an expert or a witness that was supposed to be Trayvon Martin's girlfriend to start these riots, and it wasn't his girlfriend, and that Crump knew and everybody knew, and all of these race hoaxes, and there goes Crump shows up. There he is in Wisconsin now. So there you go. There's your link.
Okay, I want to point out to folks that KARI Baxter Donovan is not saying Trump. She is saying Crump. C-R-U-M-P. Attorney Benjamin Crump. C-R-U-M-P, to differentiate between the two.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal of BLM, I don't believe, well, number one, in my opinion, they are a massive racist organization. Number two, they are a terrorist organization. And number three, they do not represent black lives. As far as they're concerned, black lives don't matter. Because if they had a care about that, I make fun of Chicago because it so lends itself to making fun of, because it's now gotten to the point where I used to say and still say, sooner or later, Chicago's going to rent out of black people to shoot.
Yeah,
but it's a sad thing to say, but my God, no one will take that jaundiced view and turn it around and cast those jaundiced eyes on themselves.
Right. It's the quite logical place to go if you really care about black lives, is go to Chicago and clean that mess up.
And Chicago, Baltimore, show me any major what I call a leftist urban rat cage. Show me any leftist urban rat cage run by a leftist or a Democrat mayor, and I'll show you now, especially in 2020, someplace that looks like beautiful downtown Mogadishu.
Now, can I make a connection for you?
Please.
Okay, you're talking about forests, right? You can't have any controlled burns. You know why they do that? Because they want to control the land, and they want to control all of the natural resources that are in all of those areas, right? So if there's oil or fracking or anything that could happen, they want to put the kibosh on that. So they don't want you to have they don't want Americans to benefit from any of our own natural resources, right? So that's what they do with that whole, you can't come into the forest, you can't do this, you can't do that. They want to control all of that space. They're doing the same thing in the urban areas with people who are our human natural resources. Those are our natural resources, would be people who could work, right?
Yes.
So across the board, no matter where you are in America, and it happens to happen also in Republican areas, the Democrats are Marxists. They want to control all natural resources, first of all, because it's theirs to do what they want, and they want to prevent you from getting ahead. That's basically all they want to do. Control natural resources, prevent you from getting ahead. So it happens from the forests to the urban areas. It's pretty much the same tactics. So I always say, we have to address their tactics. That's what we need to go after them, and we need to nail them to the wall. Their tactics, whether it be in the forest or in the urban area, it's the same thing, right? It's to punish Americans. It's to keep us from being prosperous. It's to control the space. So actually, we're talking about the same thing as far as I'm concerned. It's all the same. We need to get rid of them get them out of every office possible. And we couldn't even make the case any better than just sit back and watch the news and see what they're doing.
No, it's true. I had the president of the Sol, and I'm going to have to take a break here in about 30 seconds, folks. I had the president of the Alinsky Center on, Ralph, God dang, what's his last name?
Talk to him.
Ralph, I can't think of his name. Actually, a really hip, pretty cool guy. Mm-hmm. I asked him, and I said specifically, Alinsky's rules for radicals can be used by anyone. And he said, yes, that's absolutely true. And he said,
Right.
you indicate that Saul Alinsky was a Second Amendment advocate, that he was armed. And he said, yes, he was. And I said, is there any reason why anyone cannot take that book, Rules for Radicals, and use it against anyone else? And what I mean to say, Ralph, is that could it not be true that conservatives could use those tactics against leftists? And he said, yes, that's
rules
true.
for deplorables. I wrote rules for deplorables. But yes, rules for radicals. You could just turn them around. The problem is that some of the Republicans who say, oh, it's not moral and you can't do that, and they get in our way. And then I say, how come you fight us more than you're willing to go fight the left? When we try to use those tactics, you always have the morality brigade who stands up and says, oh, you can't make fun of people. It's like, yes, you can. I think it's rule number 4, mockery. You have to. It's in the rule book.
Well,
right?
It is. We're going to have to hit a break. We're talking to KARI Baxter Donovan. I'm going to be right back after this. When we get back, I've got a whole bunch of other stories to talk to her about. And, of course, we're going to be talking to her about whiskey.
Yeah,
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
No surrender, ever.
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Mike and Kaiser and Sergeant Booker in SHR Media Chat. Thanks to Josh and Hugh. Haven't seen Hugh for a while. Thanks to Jeremy Hansen. And thanks to Jimmy Collins, Mike Fitzpatrick for watching on Facebook chat. Josh Kemp, I think I mentioned Josh, so thanks for being here. We are talking tonight to KARI Baxter Donovan, and I'm going to do a little show promoting here for a second. I suck at self-promotion. I am not one of those guys that's comfortable with pounding out the social media, but I would ask you that when the show comes on whatever form of social media you happen to be on at the time, send my show out. Do it on, I don't know, if you're on Spreaker, if you're on YouTube, share it like crazy. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it on YouTube, share it as many places as you possibly can. I'm very bad at doing that, and I should ask everybody if they can do it with much more regularity. In terms of promoting the show, I'm going to also play 3 videos tonight that I was recently made aware of that happen to do with Wuhan 19. And as with most of those videos that you have seen or heard of, a lot, probably 75 or more % of them, just disappear out of either YouTube or disappear from Google or disappear from Twitter, Facebook, etc. So I'm going to play some what I consider to be some extremely revelatory videos. One of them from a doctor, actually 2 of them from a doctor, and one of them is from an Italian doctor with subtitles, and I'll read the subtitles. And the reason I'm going to do that is because that particular individual, and you can, if I can find it, I will attempt to put the link up to that in chat so that you can see I'm not making that crap up. But there is so much more going on to coronavirus than you can possibly imagine. You are being mushroomed, you are planted in shit and told to shut up. You don't have a fraction, a scintilla of the knowledge that you need to have to deal with what's going on, which is why, again, I say, and so does KARI Baxter Donovan, vote red November 3rd. KARI Baxter Donovan, thanks again for being here. Would you not say that the goal of, not Antifa, that the goal of BLM is, as they've specifically said that they are trained Marxists, is Marxism and or ultimately communism? Would you? They've said that they abhor the family unit, for one thing.
Well, they have a lot of the communist talking points. The goal is for the government to ultimately control everything and everybody.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's pretty much, that's communism. People like to get into discussions about, names and philosophies and things like that when they're really scared and they don't really want to admit that it's really bad. And what they want is government control, because then they can choose who gets the natural resources, who gets to, have access to what. And it has to be, of course, people who are friendly to them will get good stuff, and people they don't like will get killed. That sounds like communism. That sounds like what communists do. So I like to just go in for the throw punch. Listen, people, it's communism. You can call it whatever else. You can come up with, fancy names. You can tell me, oh, no, what they really want is socialism. They really are good people. They're just confused. No, they're not. They don't want free enterprise.
No, they're not confused.
They don't want free enterprise. Is what they really, really, really hate is free enterprise. Right? Where people can go and say, hey, I want to make my own money. I want to have a T-shirt company. I want to sell socks. I want to start a, steel mill. I want to have a bar. I don't need the government. And that's what a lot of this pandemic stuff is about. I live in North Carolina. We're, I think, one of the most shut down states. Still, we're shut down. We are in a shutdown. My son is in college, sitting in his apartment, because nobody can talk to anybody. Nobody can go to class. Nobody can go to eat. I'm paying rent on an apartment, and he is in his senior year, and he can't go to any classes because North Carolina is got a communist governor who's, anyway. So it's communism.
Well, it is. Before I go on, I want to acknowledge something. There's a really good friend of mine that happens to be in Facebook chat right now. His name is Jeremy Hansen. And if I'm reading this correctly, his daughter, I believe, was just given a better bill of sale on a heart condition that apparently she has. And so she got a good grade from the doctor on her heart today, was what he said in chat, in Facebook chat. So, folks, if you have a couple of extra prayers to send his way to Jeremy Hansen and his family, I would recommend that you do that. Jeremy has his own show, Monday through Friday, for an hour. It's called Unleashed Jeremy Hansen. A great guy. I've had him on the show. But we're all human beings on this bus. So, despite all the turmoil and anarchy that's going on, we can still find our humanity within. So if you would, as I indicate, send some prayers his way. Send some prayers to his family, if you would. In any event, moving on, one of the things I wanted to get to you about the last time we spoke, and now it's 2 weeks old, but I'm still curious about your opinion with regard to this. This was dropped like a hot rock by the American media maggots. And I was told by a leftist Jew, as a matter of fact, this doesn't mean a thing. OMB, Trump is still evil.
What is it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This is from ABC News. Israel, UAE agree to normalize ties in what Trump calls an historic agreement. In the first time in recorded history of which I am aware, we have a president that has managed somehow to get an agreement between Israel and any country in the Middle East. And as far as the leftists are concerned, nah, this means nothing. Move on. Nothing to see here.
Everything. Well, it's going to cause a house of cards. This is what I see. And again, he built it on the idea and the concepts of free enterprise. Don't you want a better quality of life? Yes, we do. So, they never had thought of it before, apparently. So if you dive in there deeply, you'll find out. Well, he basically was saying, listen, we're going to bring companies in here. We're going to do these things. That's just what Trump does, right? That's his MO. Well, the Palestinians aren't happy, and you know who else isn't happy? The American left. And I've been saying for years that the Palestinian movement, and if you look at Taliba Rashadi, or Rashad Taliba, whatever her name is, who's from the same university where I went to school, if you look at her, she's a Palestinian, right? It's the same complainers, the same the same people who go to war with free-loving people around the world. That's why the left and the Palestinians are both pissed off about what Trump did over there. And like you said, historic. Oh my gosh, historic. I've been listening to foreign radio for a while, for years. I mean, I'm seeing like 8-10 years where they're talking about Hebron, and they were talking about, who gets to go pray. They've been fighting over who gets to pray. Trump goes in and says, hey, does everybody want to get a job and make some more money? And they're all like, okay, forget all that Hebron stuff. Who cares? We can get along. And now they're starting these discussions.
It's unprecedented. This is absolutely
it's a miracle.
unprecedented.
It's a miracle.
And
it is a miracle. It is. It's a miracle. And that's Trump. I don't know. He's just an unlikely miracle maker.
The only president that came through with his promises and moved our embassy to Jerusalem, just like presidents before him had the opportunity to do, but some others, as in the prior occupant for 8 years before, was not a friend of Israel at all. Let's just make that plain.
Right.
But yet Trump has managed to do that so that the only essentially stable country in the Middle East isn't destabilized. Unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented. I think we have a phone call. Kaiser, are you there, sir?
Hey, how's it going? It's Kaiser, brother.
Good. Hey, you're on with Kari.
I love what Kari's saying, except I think she forgets something.
What's that?
I sent you something. I thought I sent you a while back. I mean, I've had this information for, 4 months.
Okay.
And I honestly thought I sent it to you.
All right.
But I sent it to you now. And if you opened it, you'd see it's about 700 pages of names. And these people have been activated globally. They're all former East Germans. This is what it is. But the point is, here's what the academics, and I understand where Kari Ann's coming from, and so do you, because you went to college just like I did. The indoctrination is Marxism. What you're facing now is Maoism. These kids have went full Mao. They carry the book. They love the Long March. That's what this is about. This is Bill Ayers. It's driven by him, Bernstein Dorn. I was basically a communist back in the day before I joined the Army. And then I saw what communism really was with clear eyes. Let me rephrase that. I have to rephrase that very clearly. But all these people believe that is what they're looking at as Marxism. No, they're not. Why do you think they talk about liberals get the rope first? They don't believe in liberalism, classical liberalism. The Marxists are a problem. And I just want to hear your thoughts on that. And, I'll mute myself, brother.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kaiser. Any thoughts, Kari Baxter Donovan, on that?
Well, I mean, for people who like to study movements and motivation, I think there's a series of things that are going on. And basically, on the left, we call them generally on the left. There's a number of, there's Marxists, communists, Maoists, different hippies, all kinds of freaks on over there. They can work together. They hate each other. Which is one of the rules for radicals, is go in there and start strife and get them fighting with each other and let them kill each other off. That would be a tactic that we could use. But there are different schools of thought for sure. They're not monolithic. The left is not monolithic.
Oh, God, no.
But they are all motivated by the idea of dominating and controlling us, right? So that they are joined together very loosely with the idea that they all want to dominate and control us. And I think that much of it, I've thought about this a lot. Like, if you had only one thing to call all of them, what would you call them? and I'll get people who argue with me about this too, but I say, they're psychopaths. They use the same tactics of gaslighting. All of the tactics for all of these mental illnesses are pretty similar, but they could be motivated by, Karl Marx or Lenin or, communism, but the end result is the same for all of them, all of those freaks.
The thing that I like to say is that socialism and communism, as far as we can document it, is an element that has historically not worked. So I think we can bottom line it that leftists and I lump so many people into that. You can put all the isms that you wish.
Well, anyone who's an anti-American.
Yeah, or you could say that. Or you could say that.
It's anti-free enterprise. They don't like the idea of us doing our own thing.
Or as Whiskey Dale in SHR Media chat says, I would call them turd burgers. Okay, well, all
those things. They're all those things. But yeah, they are definitely motivated. They are motivated by different little pockets, right? You have some who are really Nazis, who are motivated by Nazism. They were talking about,
yeah, exactly.
So I'm hearing myself.
I know. I have to move something aside now. So I took care of it. So
there's something I want to point out.
They don't learn history. They have learned nothing from history, coupled with the fact that Kari and Kaiser, would both of you not agree that the bulk of these individuals cannot see more than 2 or 3 inches in front of their faces? Now, either that is by design, it's purposeful, or they really are that ignorant of the nature of humanity.
Well, I've got something on that. Do you know anybody who's really a true blown psychopath or sociopath? The difference being that they would murder someone. It's
any number of them. I have booked murderers. Yes.
Right. So a psychopath is they cannot get their thoughts off of themselves. They are their own god. So it's a crisis of there are atheists who, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a godless movement. They're their own gods, and it's a very self-absorbed lifestyle. So they share that in common, all of the different isms over there as well.
I call them religious leftists with regard to another thing as well, and that's the environment. As far as they're concerned, the environment is taken on faith. What they say is faith. For every article or study that people can think of saying that, oh my God, it's global warming and climate change, I can locate another study that says the exact opposite. So what they're doing is, as they're doing with the coronavirus, but that's for OMB, is facts don't matter. History doesn't matter. They're not interested. They have no interest whatsoever.
And that's that. It's just what they feel.
It's all.
They don't think. They feel. They feel. Everything is a reaction to their feeling.
Okay. Again, let's see if this works. Because I say, yes, absolutely. They're nothing but a bunch of emos, and facts be damned and can go to hell. And history, all of these people have what I term historical Alzheimer's. They can't learn from history.
And
I was just reading.
Go ahead, Kari.
I was just reading the Democrat convention platform, and I couldn't get past the first 3 paragraphs thinking, these people are trying to recreate history because they just can't accept that we have a Constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, and we have free enterprise.
And so they eradicate history.
So they're going through all of these mental gymnastics over, that's right, we're Marxists, we want this. Oh, that's right, we want this. We want to reform the police. We want all of these things because we are good moral people. And really what it is they cannot accept that there's any kind of foundation to the country, and that some of it might be, religious based, that it's steeped in religious liberty. They don't like that. So just in that one, it's like a 72-page document. I couldn't even get through the first 3 paragraphs without thinking, like, how do you attract a group of people who all are so self-absorbed, right? Like, what's connecting these self-absorbed people?
Well, there's so many elements. I could not begin to go into all of the elements that are involved in that. Go ahead, Kaiser. What do you got?
Right. What?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you guys. Here's the issue. There is a difference with the ism, and that's where we differ, I guess, because I do understand what Marxism, Leninism, all those different things are, and Maoism especially. Nobody was more efficient than Mao. And it's the one congruent thing that you'll find with all those isms, and even socialism, National Socialism. Like I say, it's not a left-right paradigm. It's if you put your hands up like you're surrendering and you press your fingers together, the right arm and the left arm meet up over your head, and it meets at maximum people dying. This is a fact. Nobody can dispute. And I don't know your back history, Kari. I know mine. And I'm going to be very clear on this. I have to be. The colleges, once the Confucian schools came in, that was when Maoism was being taught. And what a lot of old school people, and I'm 52, Kari, but I also went through college, and I had the professors that were Maoists. They were living the dream of William Ayres and the Weather Underground and, you know, the May 19th movement and all these other BS things that went on back in the 60s. I caught the tail end of that when I was young, just like I caught the tail end going into the military and working for several federal agencies. I caught the tail end of these dudes that were Vietnam vets or with different agencies, just like Brennan. A lot of people don't realize he voted for a Marxist, and Hillary always was a Maoist. That's why she wore that little Maoist suit. That's her hat tip to the Chinese, because Biden's doing the same thing. And when you watch Hunter Biden come off and he's got his collar flipped, look at that jacket when he comes off Air Force Two, and watch how it looks just like an old Mao jacket. You have to look at the signals, and these are the problems that a lot of people don't understand. And Kari, I love what you're saying. I love what BZ is saying, and I will listen. I'll mute myself, but I think there's a nuance that you're not seeing, because they're even in the 60s and the 70s and 80s. I fought against Baader-Meinhof group, against German Red Army faction. I got to Germany a couple years after the Japanese Red Army faction machine gunned a bunch of Jewish people in the El Al section of, the airport in Frankfurt. So I'm just trying to say that there's a reality that we're not focusing on that I think we need to, and I really want to listen to you guys' thoughts.
Okay, we're running out of time because I'm going to play some videos tonight in the second hour that I think are not long for this planet. And I got to try to figure out how to amure these videos so that I can keep them and make reference to them, because a lot of the stuff, I archive my shows on bloviatingzeppelin.net of the critical stuff that I play in terms of videos. And I discover when I go back to look at those that there's an empty spot where a YouTube video or a Facebook video or something like that used to be. One critical question that I want to ask the both of you, unfortunately it can't occur tonight, maybe it can occur Thursday night, this coming Thursday night, is to the both of you, and we won't be able to answer it tonight, is What do you think the ultimate goal of all of this is? And let's leave out the isms, but I want to feature some kind of a scenario where what does life look like under these assholes, and what is it that they really want? My guess is they want their own dacha, and they want everyone else servile to them. Only
yeah, that's what they what they want. Well, I actually talked to people in Hong Kong and Taiwan, and they say that obviously the communists have no better friends than the Clintons.
Oh, God, no,
Hillary,
of course.
Right? Hello. So, but what they want is, when we're talking about globalism, what globalism is worldwide communism, with the leader of the Chinese Communist Party at the head of it. So, talking to Hong Kong, they say, listen, if President Trump doesn't get reelected, that's the end of Hong Kong. So if it's the end of Hong Kong, if America falls, like you said in your opening, that's what the final goal is for the Chinese Communist Party. They are getting beaten back, though, so it's not going the way that they planned. And it's Trump.
I have 45. I'm running late for the break, folks. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna do a break. Let me throw this out there. I'm gonna have Jack Alexander on Thursday night, and I think it's going to be sort of a conflagration of a lot of different topics and folks. Kara, if you want to call me back Thursday night, Kaiser, if you want to call me back Thursday night, I would be interested in carrying on this conversation to see what you think the ultimate goal is and what America, perhaps the most salient and important question, what do you guys think America would look like under a Harris presidency? Because I can guarantee you it ain't going to be Joe Biden. It'll be Harris or someone else.
No, what they'll do is keep Biden on as a mouthpiece. But in my opinion, because this has happened before, look, Kim Jong-un, we now know, and I said this months ago with you, brother, that he was dead, or at least in a coma. And now we know there's a body double. What you're looking at is he's the body double. He is going to be the speaker that will say what they want. And he is totally co-opted. And his family proves it. Yeah. And there's just so much to this, brother, that honestly, on this level, people need to understand. You are looking at the complete co-option of the United States. If we lose, we lose. The American society doesn't exist. And with that, I'm going to mute, hang up, and listen to you guys finalize.
Okay. Thursday night, I'm going to be back. Kaiser, if you're interested in weighing in, come back Thursday night. Carrie, thank you ever so kindly for being here.
Thank you so much.
If I could do this again, because an hour goes like a minute, I'd like to have you back early in September, because guaranteed, between now and then, there will be so much stupid crap that has already occurred. So I want to have you back in the early portion of September. I got some great guests coming up that I will announce towards the end of the show. And so, Kari Baxter Donovan, you will be back again, if that's okay with you.
Yes, for sure. And just, hey, you know what? I am very hopeful. Things are going very well, and the media is not covering a lot of it. But some of the polls that I'm looking at we are doing fantastic. And people need to remember, vote Republican all the way down the ballot and tell everybody you know. And that's what we're in together. When we say we're in this together, that's what we're in together.
Bingo.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example that no one tells you about. Day one of the DNC convention, 21.4 million viewers. Day one of the RNC, 128.4 million viewers.
Yeah. We're crushing them.
We're
crushing them.
Difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Kari.
And I wrote about it today. The communist flag came down in Chinatown today. A number of them. So we're doing well. Okay. I'll keep slipping stuff in. You got to kick me off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll have you back, I swear.
Good talking to you. Thanks so much. All right. Have a great night.
Thank you, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Ciao.
Okay.
We'll be back right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. The Lid himself, Jeff Dunnett. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnett.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
This is Shannon Wright.
And this is Michael Wright.
Reminding you to listen
to The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Every Monday through Thursday.
7 to 9 a.m.
Right here on shrmedia.com.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening tonight. Thanks for being in Facebook chat. Jimmy, Josh, Jeremy Hansen, Chad, tons of people in Facebook chat. Also, thanks for being in the SHR Media chat. Jack Alexander, KARI Baxter Donovan, Simone, Whiskey Dale, Mike the Alaskan, Kaiser, and a host of literally thousands, a cast of thousands of individuals. I've asked you before, and I'm going to start asking, when this show is on, wherever you're watching it or hearing it, do me a favor, pretty please, with sugar on top. Wherever it says share on whatever you're watching or listening to, please share the show. I finally have to get out of my, I can't promote my own show. I can't do it. I'm going to have to start promoting my own show because I am about the world's worst promoter. And I listen to everybody else's show and they say, do this, do this. Can you do this? Hit me with this. Can you promote this? Can you share it? Why am I not saying this? There's no paywall. I don't charge any money for this stuff as opposed to other personnel. So it's free. I hope you enjoy it. And I have to say this. Claudia Cheek just stepped into Facebook chat. Claudia, good to see you there. I have to say this, and I should probably say it more often. This is a late night radio show. Sometimes bad words creep in. And that's one of the primary reasons that I'm a late night radio show. So right now, for example, it's 9:12 on the left coast. It's 12:12 on the east coast. So this really is a late night show. It's 1749 and 223 Point Bucklew, 723.2 Grote Cluster 5 in Bolivian time. But that's primarily because I just could never understand Bolivian time. So the point of this is I'm a late night show. I'm not on during the day. I'm not on after, say, dinner. So people have to purposely stay up late to listen and watch. I am gathering an audience. I'd like to gather more. I'd like to be able to show my wares and share my wares to many more individuals. That having been said, I realize it's a sacrifice to be up late at night to listen or watch the show. It's a lot easier to do during the day. So my point is, from the bottom of my heart, of my clotted little heart, waiting for its factory-issued heart attack, which I can hear it from here. I can hear the shoes coming towards me. That having been said, I appreciate your staying up so late. And Jack Alexander, it's always the next day in Jack's world because it's like tomorrow's news today when I talk to Jack on Thursday night. It's always tomorrow's news today. Now, I have 3 videos that I'm going to play. My guess would be at the conclusion of this, if you missed the videos or for whatever reason they didn't play them, I think I've got them set up appropriately so that you will be able to hear them. One is 7 minutes, another one is 8 minutes, another one is like 5, 6, 7 minutes, something like that. They're not terribly long, but I want to play them while I still can because these things involving the Wuhan 19, they have a tendency to disappear. And these have, to me, some rather startling revelations that people are continuing to say about certain personnel. We had an axiom in my department when you got it's kind of similar to where there's smoke, there's fire. So you know that if you got one call in your district or your beat of guns being fired, one call, it's probably, it may be good, it might not be. If you got 3 or 10 or 30 calls on rounds being fired at a particular location, yeah, chances are really good that's happening. Well, that is true with what's going on with these videos that social media leftists and the Democrats are suppressing. When we continue to hear things about the Wuhan 19, things about hydroxychloroquine and other much cheaper ways to ameliorate Wuhan 19, something tells me there's probably a bit of evidence to it. So I'm going to start with this one. We can discuss towards the middle. If you want at the end, at the conclusion of these videos, if you want to call in, the number is open, 575-208-4481. If you happen to be watching on Facebook or you happen to be watching on YouTube, the number is in the scroll at the bottom, 575-208-4481. And the reason I'm making the intro now in terms of these videos is my guess would be because I'm streaming to Facebook and I'm streaming to YouTube, one or both of these visual streaming medias are going to stop this show and remove it. So your alternative, if that happens after the show, after they get posted, the alternative is you can go to Spreaker, which is not the massive censor that they are, but you won't see the show. You can hear the show. So here is the first video. This gives information that I suspect you'll go over all these videos. My guess is you're going to go, okay, I thought that's what was happening.
I'm the developer of Linguistic Genomics, which was the first platform on which you could determine the intent of communication. Rather
Hang on
than
one second.
I'm the developer of Linguistic Genomics, which was the first platform on which you could determine the intent of communication.
This is David E. Martin. David E. Martin, Ph.D.
Rather than the literal artifact of communication. But we've also used that technology for a number of other applications in defense and intelligence and finance, and most notably in the early 2000s, my company was responsible for bringing down what was at the time one of the largest tax frauds in U.S. history. We maintained a series of inquiries into every individual, every organization, and every company that is involved in anything that either blurs the line of biological and chemical weapons or crosses that line in any of 168 countries. In 1999, there were 1 million patents digitized by IBM, and those 1 million patents were the first time human innovation had been put into an electronic digital searchable format. We took that information and we did a very simple exercise using our linguistic genomics technology, where I made the horrific assessment that approximately 1/3 of all patents filed in the United States were functional forgeries, meaning that while they had linguistic variations, they actually covered the same subject matter. In 1999, patents on coronavirus started showing up, and thus began the rabbit trail.
March 2003. Panic grips Hong Kong as a deadly new virus sweeps through the city.
In 2003, the Center for Disease Control saw the possibility of a gold strike, and that was the coronavirus outbreak that happened in Asia. They saw that a virus they knew could be easily manipulated was something that was very valuable, and in 2003 they sought to patent it. And they made sure that they controlled the proprietary rights to the disease, to the virus, and to its detection, and all of the measurement of it. We know that Anthony Fauci, that Ralph Berserk, that the Center for Disease Control, and the laundry list of people who wanted to take credit for inventing coronavirus were at the hub of this story. From 2003 to 2018, they controlled 100% of the cash flow that built the empire around the industrial complex of coronavirus.
The World Health Organization has officially named the novel coronavirus
the novel coronavirus outbreak.
The World Health Organization is a pandemic,
an international public health emergency.
While we know that the coronavirus manipulation started with Dr. Ralph Berserk in 1999.
The major characteristics of SARS, MERS, and SARS coronavirus 2. It's a good way for you.
Ralph Berserk is the researcher at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who's famous for his chimeric coronavirus research. In 2002, there was a recognition that the coronavirus was seen as an exploitable mechanism for both good and ill. On April the 25th, 2003, the U.S. Center for Disease Control filed a patent on the coronavirus transmitted to humans. Under 35 U.S. Code Section 101, nature is prohibited from being patented. Either SARS coronavirus was manufactured, therefore making a patent on it legal, or it was natural, therefore making a patent on it illegal. If it was manufactured, it was a violation of biological and chemical weapons, treaties, and laws. If it was natural, filing a patent on it was illegal. In either outcome, both are illegal. In the spring of 2007, the CDC filed a petition with the Patent Office to keep their application confidential and private. They actually filed patents on not only the virus, but they also filed patents on its detection and a kit to measure it. Because of that CDC patent, they had the ability to control who was authorized and who was not authorized to make independent inquiries into coronavirus. You cannot look at the virus, you cannot measure it, you cannot develop a test kit for it. And by ultimately receiving the patents that constrained anyone from using it, they had the means, they had the motive, and most of all, they had the monetary gain from turning coronavirus from a pathogen to profit.
Developing and owning a coronavirus vaccine has become a biotech arms race with political overtones.
This vaccine gold rush is starting to bother me. Gold rush. Let's keep that in mind.
And so somewhere between 2012 and 2013, something happened. The federal funding for research that was feeding into places like Harvard, Emory, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that funding suddenly became impaired by something that happened at the NIH, where the NIH got this little tiny moment of clarity and said, I think something we're doing is wrong. And in 2013, the NIH said, gain-of-function research on coronavirus should be suspended. The National Institutes of Health had a moral and social and potentially legal reason to object to research. But the letters that were sent to the researchers essentially said, you are receiving notice that we're telling you to stop. And now on the bottom of the page, we're going to clarify what stop means. Keep going. But when the heat gets hot in 2014 and 15, what do? You offshore the research. You fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology to do the stuff that sounds like it's getting a little edgy with respect to its morality and legality. But do you do it straight way? No. You run the money through a series of cover organizations to make it look like you're funding a U.S. operation, which then subcontracts with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The U.S. could say, China did it. China could say, the U.S. did it. And the cool thing is, both of them are almost telling the truth.
Does that sound like a pandemic to you? Well, as I indicated in chat, I didn't want to interrupt anyone. And I didn't want to interrupt the video so that at least one venue, probably Spreaker, everyone can hear this. going to get through in about 35 minutes. It'll take about a half hour for YouTube and Facebook to post this. I'm on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, and I will indicate there as to whether or not I was suspended. My guess would be Facebook suspended me for a month, and I got off about a week ago. My guess is Facebook is going to suspend me for probably another month because I'm telling the truth, and YouTube will probably end up removing the video. Listen to these while you can. Fauci has more information for you to hear. This is a video that's about 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. After that, I'm going to explain the next video. Afterwards, it's in Italian, but I'll translate for you. Here's the second.
If you look at Moderna, Moderna is in...
Sorry, we're having trouble playing this video. Let's go to Plan B, because BZ always has a Plan B. Here we go. Let's see if this'll work.
If you look at Moderna, Moderna is in stage 3 of their vaccine development. And, the vaccine is already there. They're just pretending that they've got to develop it. It's already developed. Moderna, when Moderna was formed, the first CEO of Moderna was a young Cornell graduate by the name of Anthony Fauci. Interesting. He was the first CEO of Moderna when he graduated from Cornell. When he was at Cornell, his roommate was one Bill Gates. Interesting. Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci were roommates at Cornell. Fauci was the first CEO of Moderna. The company Moderna, there was a company in World War II that was heavily involved with what happened in World War II, and I don't buy into the official story of World War II, but there were certain experiments that were being done, and there was a company that was heavily involved by the name of IG Farben. IG Farben was run by a Jewish guy turned Nazi, later turned American, by the name of George Soros. George Soros broke up IG Farben and he formed Moderna. One of the main financial backers of Moderna, so you've got Bill Gates, you've got Anthony Fauci, you've got George Soros, all involved in this whole Moderna thing, and one of the main financial backers of Moderna up until his alleged death was one Jeffrey Epstein. Interesting little circle of friendship, don't you think? And these people, mates, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's frustrating. It's frustrating looking at all this shit. It really is. Even with waking people up, there's other ways to look at this. There's other ways to look at what's really going on here. Half of it is just frustration because it's going to come here. I don't want to get to the point where I can't go to the shop. And that's what it'll get to. They're saying, we're not going to make it mandatory. It's like they don't make it mandatory for the people on Centrelink here who receive Centrelink payments. They don't make vaccinations mandatory for them either. What they do is they send them a notice saying, listen, we're going to reduce your payments by, I think it's something like $29 or $30 a fortnight until you get your children vaccinated. And we're not just going to reduce it by, $30 or $29 a fortnight this fortnight. We're going to do it this fortnight, and then we'll reduce it again another $29 the next fortnight, and then we'll do it again the next fortnight, and this reduction will continue until you've got your children vaccinated. So we'll just basically reduce you to the point that you have no income whatsoever because we want to protect your children. That's what they do, but we're not going to make it mandatory. It's not mandatory. We'll give you a choice. You don't have to go and get vaccinated. You could just let your payments get reduced to zero, or you could go get a job. But of course, you won't be able to work in any of the industries unless you're vaccinated. But we're not going to force you to get vaccinated. This is how they do it, folks. This is how they do it. This is this whole thing, And it's all because people, won't stand up for themselves. They're not prepared to be human beings, realise that they don't have any owners. We can do what we can, but it's not up to us to wake everybody up. If people don't get it, then they don't get it. And if they don't get it now, well, ignorance is truly a choice in this day and age, folks. If they can't see what's happening, then I don't really know how to help them from that point, But we've got to face the reality that, a lot of people probably won't make it through. A lot of people probably won't get it.
This is 2020. This is the United States of America in 2020. This is the globe in 2020. I'll be right back after this much briefer message.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show here on the SHR Media Network. Jump into our sumptuous and palatial chat room right now at shrmedia.com. Call us when the phone lines are open. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California and working without a net. You're in the Saloon.
And so the last video that I think will have a half-life of, maybe the next day or two. It may last longer because the guy that's speaking, this doctor, is speaking in Italian. It's translated at the bottom. So I'm going to translate for you because you can't see this. This is another doctor, about almost 7 minutes, speaking about what he knows about the coronavirus in Italy. What I'm going to read to you, which will disseminate, but you must take note of it. The media, television, politics are never going to release what I'm about to read to you. Italians, pay attention.
Italiani, attenzione.
COVID-19 means the certificate of identification of vaccination with artificial intelligence. And 19 is the year in which it was created. COVID-19 is not the name of the virus. Pay attention. It is the name of the international plan for the control and reduction of populations, which has been developed over the last decades and launched in 2020, what reactivates the virus is the immune ground in which it finds itself, weakened by former vaccinations. Weakened, what they say, what they intend to do is going to be the most terrible vaccines of all. It is literally a descent into hell, with the aim of a massive depopulation of over 80% of the population. Do not take the tests. The tests are not reliable. I have always said it and will repeat it myself, just like the test producers also affirm. None of the tests are able to accurately detect the SARS-CoV-2 virus. They only detect an infinity of small, harmless viruses or cell debris, which are naturally already part of our microbiota. The people tested will increasingly appear positive in tests. About 90%. This is their goal, and this is why they started the testing process with children. On May the 11th, no television, no newspaper or Italian Berlusconi broadcast announced that in France, mass testing was being imposed in all schools. There were about 700,000 tests every week. However, nobody, unfortunately, broke this news. So once your child gets screened, the whole family and all immediate contacts will be forced to be screened. Pay attention, Italians. Listen. Do not listen to the charlatans, the ignorant who reject the truth. I remind you that we are not sick. We are, on the contrary, just healthy carriers of this virus. Having the virus does not necessarily mean that you are sick. You could be healthy and fine. But everyone will still appear, pay attention, positive in the tests. In fact, they make you repeat the tests 2 or 3 times. All public facility employees, especially in the healthcare sector, all they need to obtain is this. Make everybody believe that they are sick. Being positive means being labeled as harmful. Pay attention, Italians. Listen to me. Refusing the detection of the virus is the only key to avoid being vaccinated. Once vaccinated, we will all be severely sick and weakened. We will certainly be led towards our death. The only solution to save our humanity, but above all to save us Italians, is to make people truly understand that they should not be tested. Do not get tested yourself. Do not give them what they lack. Do not fall into their trap. I'm telling you this because at least you won't be able to say that you haven't been warned. COVID-19 means program of mass extermination. Don't get yourself tested. It's the only way to save yourself. On television, these bastards don't and won't ever tell the truth. Also, politicians behave completely dishonestly. Nevertheless, the health deputy minister is himself a doctor. Colleague, you must only and deeply say that most non-vaccinated people will cease to exist for society. You will not be able to travel without a vaccine. You will not be able to go to the cinema. And in the future, you won't even be able to leave your own house. This is already happening in some Chinese cities. And Spain is one of the main test driver countries along with Argentina and all Latin countries. Everything is already set up and been activated in all companies and media for mass vaccination. I will prefer death, absolutely not vaccination. I salute you. My guess is that these will not be much longer on the internet. My guess is I won't be much longer on social media. And I apologize for coughing, but it's 9 straight days of soot and ash raining down in California and Sacramento. If you look around, and I've got the story, now I've got to find it. And I know it's here. Here we go. I knew I'd find it. This proposal is here in the United States, if you were not aware. This is from lifesitenews.com. This is here in America. Doctors lay out plan to punish people who refuse coronavirus vaccine. There is no alternative. This is from August 11th. A coronavirus vaccine should be mandatory, and tax penalties, higher insurance premiums, and denial of many government and private services ought to be considered for those refusing the shot, 2 doctors and an attorney argued in USA Today on Thursday. While the measures that will be necessary to defeat the coronavirus will seem draconian, even anti-American to some, we believe that there is no alternative. Simply put, getting vaccinated is going to be our patriotic duty, wrote Dr. Michael Lederman, Dr. Stuart Youngner, and Maxwell J. Mellman. There is no, quote, alternative to vaccine-induced herd immunity in a pandemic, unquote, they argued. Broad induction of immunity in the population by immunization will be necessary to end this pandemic. I also read another article, as an aside, that's saying the coronavirus, and these are some people in the media saying this, will be around for the next, 3, 4, 5 years. There is no alternative to vaccine-induced herd immunity in a pandemic. The USA Today article, published August 6th, is titled, Defeat COVID-19 by Requiring Vaccination for All. It's not un-American, it's patriotic. Its original subhead said, Make vaccinations free, don't allow religious or personal objections, and punish those who won't be vaccinated. They are threatening the lives of others. Stop. Now, if you're watching, and you're still going to be watching because YouTube and Facebook hasn't taken it down yet, have you had anybody go off on you for not wearing a mask in certain situations? If you have, give me a call. I'm not really expecting any calls. It's almost 1 a.m. on the East Coast, for God's sake. But if you've had somebody go off on you, I have not, give me a call. 575-208-4481. 575-208-4481. Jack Alexander in chat in SHR Media chat says, in Australia, they're already talking about mixing it in with the annual influenza vaccine. Oh, perfect. It's interesting today I had a little tete-a-tete with some loser leftist chick who was running for District 42 in Southern California that decided to troll my Twitter site today at BZEP. Oddly enough, it turned out that, well, she lost that. But the other thing she said is that I'm just another QAnon kind of guy, and obviously I'm also a Russian bot. To which I replied to her, yeah, District 42, loser, bye-bye. In any event, no one has yet gotten in my grill about this, so I'm curious if anybody has with anybody else. Well, Kaiser has called me back. Did you have some kind of a run-in with something like this? I'm also a Russian bot. Okay. Kaiser, I'll tell you what. I can't have you there. Can you give me a call on the, let's see. Can you give me a call on the other line, the 575 number? Because I'm going to get some crossfade on this. In any event, the reason I give these things to you is... All right, here we go. Let me see if I can do this now. The reason I read these things to you, whether I believe them or not, is actually immaterial. I put the information out there because I trust that you folks are adults. And I trust you folks to be able to discern and make all the decisions that you need, having been informed on both sides of an issue. The American media maggots are agendized and biased. My goal is to do the job of the American media maggots and provide another view. Now, do I believe all of these things? I have some beliefs. It's not absolutely incongruency with everything that I've played, but my belief is you need to hear it, because you will not hear it from the American media maggots. Kaiser, I think I've got you on. Are you there, sir? Kaiser, are you there? Let's try this. How about now? Are you there? Kaiser, are you present? Okay, I'll tell you what. Uno mas, give me a call back one more time, because this is the 2-call rule in technology. Give me a call back on the same number that you just called, and my guess would be that it's going to come back. In any event, the doctors in this article that I'm referring to also wrote, when a vaccine is ready, it must be free. Here we go. Okay, let's try this now. Kaiser, are you there, sir?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, it's the 2-call rule.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Real quick, I was fortunate. Back in 2018, when I returned from Afghanistan, I know I got COVID, and that's fact, and it was being used there. You know, I'm not getting into the facts on that, but we'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
But the point is, they gave me an inhaler, and the drug in that inhaler is what you get if you have COPD. And I'm going to read it to you right now. Shit, I can't read it. Hold on. Let me look over here. Oh, it's pro-rear HFR, actuated sulfate. Okay. And that's for, like, if you have COPD. And it was to give me the ability to get breath at that time. You remember this time we talked during it. The interesting part about that is I didn't look at what I was given when I left. Fort Bliss, Texas. They gave me 400 pills of, besides the Z-Pack, they gave me 400 pills that I was supposed to take daily of same kind of thing as an antibiotic.
Okay.
Except we flew over the ship pond of Kandahar, and people don't realize that thing was built, when I say ship pond, I have to be very clear. The Russians built that. So it's been there since the 80s. So the interesting part about this, Kandahar actually is a base we just took over from the Russians. Anybody who's been there has seen the old Russian stuff that's still there. The interesting part about this is they gave me a Z-Pack, and they also gave me hydrochloroquine. And when I got back, they were like, just take the meds. You should have taken it while you were there. And I recovered. Now with that, people need to realize, I just tried to tell them the inhaler they have to get. Because that's COPD, even though I don't have it, that's the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it doesn't matter if a cop says it. It doesn't matter if it's a store who has it, if they try to throw you out. Pull that inhaler out and point it in their face and say, Americans with Disabilities Act. And guess what? They can't do shit. Because Ohio, I'll tell you this, it's for real. Mike DeWine, I've supported him since he was state rep because he sent me a flag and drove to my mother, and I lived in that same damn trailer. years before I went over to before I went in the military, when the wall was still up in 05 or 85. He brought that to me. I've taken that flag everywhere, brother. And it broke my heart when he reversed on Trump and said, "Oh, I got COVID-19. I can't meet with Trump." It's political now. That's what they've done with it. And he did it too. He's nothing more to me now than a Lincoln Project guy. And it breaks my heart because he's not a bad dude, but for some reason, maybe he's got some Bidenism where he doesn't think properly. That's the only reason why I called him, though. I'll listen offline.
All right. Thanks, Kaiser, for that. Appreciate it. And again, thanks to everybody who listens late at night. I got to ask you this. I am considering an 800 number. Somebody about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in chat said, "Hey, if I had a 1-800 number, a toll-free number, would you guys call?" So I'm curious, if I had an 800 number, would you guys be more inclined to call? Because I really enjoy the tete-a-tete back and forth between everybody when folks call. Just throwing it out there for you. I'm going to do one more story, then I'm going to wrap it up because I got to get up really early tomorrow. We had 2 dogs pass away, one right before Christmas, and another one actually 3 dogs pass away. One at right before Christmas, the 24th, one in April, and one in May. We had 3 dogs at one time. So we're looking at another dog. We may get a dog tomorrow, so I'm going to get up early to go ahead and do that. And I'll let you folks know if we have another dog in the BZ household. So I'm going to do one more story. And I think this is unfortunately indicative of altogether too many people, but it's the extent to which leftists will go these days. This is written by Jeff Dunitz. Actually, no, I'm sorry, by Joe Newby on the Lid blog, owned by Jeff Dunitz. And you can find his stuff at lidblog.com, lidblog.com. This article says, liberal mom says her son is dead to her for joining Team Trump. Liberalism, as I've repeated since February 2011, is an ideology based on insane rage and hate. On this past Sunday, Twitter user at Max and Moi stated that her middle son is dead to her because he now supports Donald Trump. Talk about unhinged. My middle son has joined Team Trump. He's dead to me, she said, on the social media platform that seems to be a magnet for insane, unhinged leftists. Since putting that message out, she protected her tweets, but fortunately, the internet is forever, and her hateful message was archived, and it can be seen if you go on the internet and find it. She had more to say, claiming her son used to protest Trump, but changed his mind after his grandmother died from the coronavirus. After claiming a friend convinced him it was a conspiracy, she blamed the change on drugs. That's the modern left. Let that sink in. This is what we're facing. I'll say it now. I will continue to say it up until November 3rd and beyond. If you think that this vote, November 3rd, is about something as simple and blasé as Republicans or Democrats, it isn't. It's far, far more than that. As KARI Baxter Donovan indicated in the first hour, it's about out and out, and they claim, BLM claims, they are trained Marxists. This is about anarchy. This is about the destruction of the United States. Leftists and Democrats stopped building some time ago. Leftists and Democrats stopped creating a long time ago. All they know how to do is to destroy and corrupt and tax. So things on November 3rd are as foundational as simply right versus wrong, and literally, as most of you know, good versus evil. Democrats are evil. Socialists are evil. I shouldn't have to tell anybody this. Communists are evil. It has never worked and never will. These people do not understand the human psyche and cannot see 2 or 3 inches in front of their faces. What happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, to all those businesses, all those people who had invested years and years and years in their businesses, this can't continue, or we're not going to have America. But I also want to tell you this, and then I'm going to leave you for tonight. I'll be back on Thursday night. This is good versus evil, but if you think that it's stopped, it's not. If you think that, for example, law enforcement will be coming back the way it was, no, it won't. Primarily, you are going to continue to be left defenseless in your neighborhoods. Because, for the most part, cops are and will continue to be emasculated by leftists and by the Democrats. I am of the opinion now that there is no escaping some kind of very serious upheaval. I used to say, I don't know what form that's going to take. These days I say, it will be up to and including potentially Civil War II. And that's no matter who wins. Well, BZ, what if Biden wins? Well, it's not really a Biden win. It's a Harris, Sanders, AOC win. Ilhan Omar win. Rashida Tlaib win. A Muslim win. But even if Biden-Harris wins, do you think the mob will be placated by them? The answer is no. You cannot placate the mob, and you never should attempt to. Never capitulate to the mob, never placate the mob. They cannot be assuaged. That is an impossibility. So if you think, well, maybe I'll vote for Biden or Harris because my guess would be it'll all be tamped down. My reply to that is bullshit. Guaranteed. It will continue if Trump wins. But at this point, up until 2024, a vote for Trump to keep the lid on some of these dickheads that are leftists is the only possibility that we have to save this country, at least right now, at least temporarily, until somebody somewhere figures some of this shit out. All is not negative. I tried to illustrate to you, and I try to bring to you alternative sources, methods, audio, thoughts, philosophies. All is not dead. You know who may end up saving us on November 3rd? Somebody you just didn't think of. Black America.
Monsieur has been lost!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at bzep, at BZEP, and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by the Boeing Company, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, and also by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You you can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than an hour. Guaranteed. And thanks to everybody who was here tonight. Thanks to KARI Baxter Donovan, everybody who listened. I'll be back on Thursday. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for being in chat on Facebook and also shrmedia.com. Thanks to everybody who listens late at night. You can do a lot of things like sleep. And I appreciate the time that you spend here with me. God bless, take care, be safe. See you Thursday night.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.